Get out of that seat! You do not belong here!
Get out of that seat. You don't belong here. The sound of fabric tearing ripped through the night like a blade. Under the harsh yellow lights of Murphy's Tavern, Maya Thompson's bare back was suddenly exposed, the dark ink of a Delta Force insignia etched across her skin. The entire room froze. Men who once thought themselves untouchable now stared in shock at the black woman who had just shattered every notion of power they understood. In Rex Morrison's hand, the knife trembled. His face, so often twisted in arrogance, was now contorted by a fear he couldn't disguise. But to understand why a single tattoo could silence a bar full of hardened outlaws, we have to go back 6 months, to the night Maya first walked through these doors carrying secrets that would change everything. Maya Thompson quietly polished a glass, her movements precise, like a soldier caring for a rifle after battle. Every 30 seconds, her eyes swept the room, exits first, then hands, then faces. It wasn't habit, it was survival, drilled into her after years in war zones where a single lapse could mean death. At 34 years old, standing 5'6" with a slender frame, people often mistook her for fragile. Few noticed how she always kept her back against the wall, or how her fingers instinctively found the balance point of every object she touched. Murphy O'Brien, the 65-year-old bar owner and Vietnam veteran, recognized the silence around her for what it was. Not coldness, but the mark of someone who had walked out of gunfire and carried the weight of it still. He hired her without questions, because he understood. Some stories are written in scars, not words. Murphy's Tavern was nothing special. Worn leather stools, scratched wooden tables, and a jukebox that repeated the same 20 songs. But to Maya, the small room above the bar was a fortress, a hiding place from a world that didn't know how to treat returning warriors. Every night, at exactly 3:17 in the morning, she woke up gasping. The acrid scent of burning metal filled her nostrils, her shoulder aching, as though an M4 carbine still pressed against it. Her hand reached instinctively for the sling that once dug into her skin, finding only the raised ridges of old scars. She had learned to bury her screams in the pillow, counting her breath with the sound of distant traffic until the desert dissolved into the suburbs. Even in the sweltering summer, Maya wore long sleeves, hiding the stories carved across her body. Customers soon learned she wasn't unfriendly, just disciplined. Every nod, every drink she poured carried a soldier's efficiency. When she sliced limes, the gleam of the knife in her hand made conversations falter mid-sentence. It wasn't the gesture of a bartender, but of someone who had once wielded blades for reasons better left unspoken. "That girl's got ghosts," Murphy whispered to his wife one night. And she had only nodded, knowing some ghosts wear uniforms and carry dog tags. At 8 o'clock sharp every Friday night, the thunder of Harley-Davidson engines rattled the tavern windows. Instantly, the atmosphere shifted, voices cut off mid-word, couples remembered sudden errands, even the drunkest men sobered up enough to pay their tabs. That was when the steel wolves rolled in. For 3 years, they had claimed Friday nights as their own. Rex Morrison, their leader, demanded $500 from Murphy, like a man taking insulin to survive. The old bartender always kept an envelope ready. Maya watched the ritual from behind the counter, lips tight but hands steady. She knew survival often meant choosing which battles not to fight. But the week before, she had seen too much. Rex had dragged Jimmy Chen out of his electronics shop 2 blocks away, punishing him for falling short on payment. His boots slammed into Jimmy's ribs again and again, while his crew laughed and filmed it on their phones. Maya's body coiled like a spring, instinct screaming at her to intervene. But reason forced her to turn away because her survival depended on staying unnoticed. That failure burned into her like another scar. Later that night, while picking up broken glass, her hair shifted just enough to expose the jagged scar along her jaw, a souvenir from Kandahar she usually kept hidden. Now, as the roar of motorcycles approached, Her chest tightened. Her hands trembled as she arranged bottles until her eyes met Murphy's. His own fingers shook as he readied the envelope. Two soldiers from different wars exchanged a single look, both recognizing the weight carried on the other's shoulders. But tonight felt different. The air carried a metallic taste, like blood or gunpowder, and Maya's instincts screamed. Something was coming. And strangely, her hands had stopped shaking. A dangerous calm settled in, the kind that meant 6 months of hiding was about to end. 8 Harley-Davidsons stormed the lot like thunder. Rex Morrison climbed off first, 6'1", muscle-wrapped in leather and denim, arms sleeved in tattoos that told stories of violence earned. He kicked the door open so hard, the wood cracked, and silence swept through the room. Behind him, Tommy Bulldog, Martinez, and 4 more steel wolves formed a wall of intimidation. Rex's knuckles popped, a sound like bones breaking that made Murphy flinch from across the bar. "Well, Murphy," Rex drawled, voice dripping with mockery. Only men who'd never faced consequences could muster. "Business looks good tonight. Real good. You been holding out on me, old man?" Rex dragged a chair over, flipped it around, and straddled it like a throne. His predator's gaze swept the room as though he owned it. Murphy's hands shook as he slid the $500 envelope across the counter, sweat gleaming on his weathered brow. "Same as always, Rex," he muttered. But Rex wasn't here for agreements. He was here for fear. "Agreements change," he sneered. "Times are tough. My boys need more. Starting now, 800 a month." The words tightened around Murphy's throat like a noose. "Rex, please, I can't." The plea ended in a sharp crack, Rex's palm slamming across Murphy's face, snapping his head sideways. Tommy's laugh grated like grinding gears, while the other wolves spread out like a disease, knocking over glasses and grinding napkins into the floor. Rex grabbed a full beer from a nearby table and poured it slowly onto the ground, eyes locked on Murphy. "Clean it up." His gaze shifted and found Maya, moving forward with a bar towel. "Well, look what we got here." Didn't know Murphy kept pets. She knelt, soaking up the spill, subtly positioning herself between Rex and the old man. Every movement was deliberate, smooth. Too smooth, Rex noticed. "What's your name?" The words spat from his mouth like venom, his eyes dripping with contempt. Maya stayed silent, her hands still moving steadily. Silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. Rex ground the heel of his boot down on her hand, pinning it to the floor. "I asked you a question. You not gonna answer me?" The tendons in Maya's neck strained, but her lips stayed shut. Murphy struggled to his feet, blood dripping from his mouth. "Her name's Maya. She just works here, Rex. All one, leave her alone." A soldier trained in the most dangerous kind of warfare, survived not by rage, but by patience, by knowing when to endure and when to strike. Rex Morrison had never gone up against a real warrior. He only knew how to bully ordinary people. "Maya!" Rex rolled the name around like cheap whiskey, then grinned, his words sharp as blades. The bar air grew tight. Maya clenched her jaw slightly, then rose slowly, wiping her hands on the rag. Her eyes locked on his with a calmness that made even Tommy flinch. "Oh, this girl's got guts," Rex sneered, his chipped teeth grinning like crooked tombstones. "Makes it more fun to break her." He shoved Murphy harder, sending the old man crashing against the liquor shelves. Glass shattered, whiskey mixing with blood as it spread across the floor. Maya shifted her stance, subtle, precise, like the click of a safety being switched off. "That's not how problems get solved." Her voice cut through the room, sharp and steady as a command. Every soul froze. Rex's face shifted from surprise to amusement to fury. "What? You telling me how to do business?" Tommy and his crew tightened the circle, hands drifting toward hidden weapons. Maya didn't flinch, didn't blink. Her gaze was the kind forged in fire, the kind that had stared death down and walked back whole. "You got any idea who I am?" Rex roared, rising to his full height, his massive frame casting a shadow over her. The next moment turned Murphy's bar into a battlefield. Rex charged like a bull, 200 pounds of rage aimed straight at the woman who dared defy him. Maya slid aside with surgical grace, letting his weight drive him face first into a wooden table, splintering it into shards. His pack snarled, ready to leap, but froze when Maya snatched up a jagged bottle, her grip firm, practiced, unmistakably military. "Back off." Just 2 words, but spoken with such command that even Tommy hesitated. Rex staggered to his feet, face flushed with humiliation, and lunged again. This time, Maya didn't dodge. She absorbed his momentum, twisting, driving her elbow into his chest and her knee hard into the nerve cluster along his thigh. The giant gasped, stumbling, bewildered like a man tasting defeat for the first time. "You little," he growled, clutching at her shirt, fabric tearing with a sound like a gunshot. And time slowed. Under the harsh light, Maya's bare back came into view, a sight both terrible and beautiful. Ink stretched across her skin, bold and unforgiving, the Delta Force emblem, a sword piercing 3 lightning bolts, encircled in sharp military lines. Beneath it, the inscription read, "SGT Maya Thompson, Purple Heart Recipient, Operation Enduring Freedom, 2019-2022. Just above her lower back hung a tattoo of dog tags, engraved with the words, "Never Forgotten." It wasn't body art, it was a blood oath, carved in memory, a living declaration of sacrifice and loyalty. The bar fell silent as a tomb. 30 men held their breath, eyes wide. Even the jukebox seemed to stall between tracks, letting reverence claim the air. The woman who had spent 6 months pouring drinks, cutting limes, hiding under long sleeves, was no barmaid. She was a warrior. Rex's hands went limp. His mouth opened, then closed again like a fish out of water. Tommy Bulldog, Martinez himself a 2-tour Iraq veteran before he slipped into crime, recognized the symbol instantly. His face drained pale beneath his beard. A whisper broke the silence. "She's Delta." The words crackled through the room like electricity. Delta Force, the Army's most elite, the kind of soldiers whose missions rarely saw daylight. And not just Delta, but a Purple Heart recipient, proof of blood spilled in service. The weight of that revelation pressed heavy on everyone present. But Rex Morrison wasn't built to surrender. His reputation thrived on brute arrogance. That pride couldn't admit the fear clawing at his chest, so he twisted it into mockery, a shield for his terror. "Funny," he sneered, though his voice cracked. Old man Murphy kept himself a broken toy soldier. "What's the matter, sweetheart? Still hear bombs in your head?" He circled her like a jackal, testing for weakness. "Purple Heart, huh? Means you got hurt. Means you failed." Maya stood her ground, her scarred back bare and proud, hands loose at her sides, breath deep but steadying. Rex stepped closer, each word a poisoned dagger, aimed straight at her wounds. "How many of your buddies came home in a box because you weren't good enough? You see their faces every time you close your eyes? Their families know you're hiding out in this dump?" The words cut into scars that had never healed. Kandahar flashed in her mind. Dust, fire, the acrid burn of gunpowder. The armored MRAP flipping like a toy, shrapnel tearing into flesh. William screaming, "Help me!" as his leg ended in torn ribbons above the knee. She dragged him to cover, her own shoulder ripped open by steel. "Stay with me, Williams. Don't you quit on me." But there were too many wounded, too few hands, and helicopters rained with gunfire overhead. She had been forced to make choices no soldier should ever make. Who would live, who would not? Those ghosts had followed her back, whispering in her sleep. Her hand trembled, the familiar tell that trauma was clawing up her spine. Rex saw it and smiled cruelly, certain he'd broken her. "There it is. See, you're cracking. You gonna cry? Gonna run, just like you did when you..." But Maya didn't run. The trembling stopped as suddenly as it began, replaced by a deadly calm, the stillness before a storm. Her voice came low, carrying the weight of folded flags and silent funerals. "You don't understand sacrifice," she said. "You don't understand what it means to hold someone's life in your hands and make decisions no one should ever have to make." Maya turned to face Rex, no longer hiding, no longer ashamed. "You want to know what this tattoo means? It means I've been to hell and back. It means I've paid prices your imagination can't even reach for freedoms you don't deserve." The crowd stirred, like dawn breaking after the longest night. Murphy forced himself upright, blood still on his chin, but pride blazing in his eyes. "That's enough, Rex." From the corner of the bar, another voice rang out, a Marine veteran from the Gulf War. "You're talking to a hero." More voices rose, one after another. "She served this country while you were out selling drugs to kids," a woman shouted. Tommy Bulldog lowered his head, his steps unsteady, his worldview cracking. But Rex had no way back. Rage turned to violence. He pulled a 6-inch serrated knife, a blade that had ended lives before. "I don't care what uniform she wore," he snarled. "In here, I'm the law." What happens when unstoppable rage collides with unshakable courage? Murphy's Tavern was about to find out. The blade flashed toward Maya's throat, but her body moved faster, reflexes honed from thousands of life-or-death moments. Her left forearm deflected his wrist. Her right hand found the nerve cluster that forced his fingers open. The knife clattered to the floor. In one fluid motion, Maya used his momentum to flip him clean over her hip, a textbook throw that would have made any combatives instructor proud. Rex slammed into the ground, the air crushed out of his chest. Before he could recover, Maya had him pinned. Not with the brutal chokehold he deserved, but with the controlled restraint of a professional. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said, her knee pressing just enough into his spine to keep him down. "But I will protect the people I care about. That's what soldiers do." The room came alive, like a community waking from a nightmare. Tommy stepped forward, but instead of helping Rex, he kicked the knife farther away. "Stay down, Rex. You've lost." Others found their courage too. The Marine veteran stood tall, then a young woman whose brother was serving overseas. Soon, 30 people had formed a human wall, standing between Maya and the wolves. "This is our bar," Murphy said, his voice stronger than it had been in years. "And she's one of us." The bikers glanced at one another, unsure, their intimidation crumbling against a community that had rediscovered its backbone. Rex spat curses from the floor, but Maya held him firm, refusing to use more force than necessary. Police sirens cut through the night. The door burst open, and Detective Sarah Kim entered with 4 uniformed officers, her hand hovering near her weapon. For 18 months, she had tried to bring down the steel wolves, but fear had always silenced witnesses. Tonight was different. "He pulled a knife on her," Murphy said at once. We all saw it. Voices echoed in agreement. "He's been extorting this town for years," the Marine veteran added. Tommy Bulldog stepped forward, Rex's glare burning holes into him. "I'm done," Tommy said flatly. "Detective Kim, I'll give you everything. The drug deals, the protection racket, where we keep the books, all of it." "You traitor," Rex growled through broken breath, but Tommy only shook his head. "I followed you because I thought you were strong. But her," he pointed toward Maya, now helping Murphy into a chair. "She showed me what real strength looks like. It's not about hurting the weak. It's about protecting them, even if it costs you everything." 2 other wolves stepped away from their leader, disowning him on the spot. Sarah Kim's body camera caught it all. The tavern's security footage showed Rex with the knife, Maya's precise response, and the witnesses backing her. Add in hate crime charges, and Rex was staring down serious prison time. His family's money might buy lawyers, but no attorney could erase 30 voices telling the same story. By morning, the internet was ablaze. Delta Force veteran defends bar against racist gang. spread through veteran groups, women's organizations, and civil rights networks. The next day, news vans lined the street outside Murphy's Tavern. Cameras zoomed in on the old wooden sign above the door, now a symbol of resilience. This time, Maya didn't hide. She stood tall in the sunlight, no longer just a nameless bartender, but a living emblem of true strength. The resolve to protect others, even when the world had tried to bury her in silence. Maya stood in front of Murphy's Tavern, no longer in long sleeves. She wore a black tank top, her Delta Force tattoo revealed for the world to see, each line glowing like an indelible truth under the morning sun. Facing microphones and cameras, her voice rang out steady. For 6 months, I tried to hide who I was, thinking my scars made me weak. But real strength isn't about hiding. It's about standing up for what's right, even when your hands shake. The clip of her interview spread like wildfire, 10 million views in just 3 days. Donations poured in to restore Murphy's Tavern. Veterans organizations reached out. And Maya, who once only wanted to disappear, had become a symbol of resilience. But sometimes, the greatest transformation isn't who gets inspired, but who gets changed when the truth comes to light. 3 months later, Rex Morrison sat in federal prison. His empire was ashes. His family disowned him. The steel wolves had scattered, some locked up, others vanished. Tommy Bulldog Martinez ran an auto shop now, hiring only veterans, giving second chances to those who had served. But the biggest change wasn't in Rex or Tommy. It was in a rundown tavern that had once lived under fear. Murphy's Tavern had become a sanctuary for veterans battling PTSD. Every week, Maya led support groups, sharing her story so others could confront their demons. I thought hiding was protection, she admitted one evening. But isolation is just another kind of prison. Murphy, fully recovered, signed papers, making Maya his legal partner. Together, they built something beautiful out of something broken. The ripple spread far beyond their town. Female veterans across the country messaged her, saying her openness made them feel less alone. She testified before Congress about the unique challenges women veterans faced. She worked with the VA to improve PTSD treatment programs. And yet, Maya still poured drinks at Murphy's, because sometimes the most powerful act is simply to show up, scars and all. Every time I wear this tank top and show my tattoo, she told the documentary filmmaker, I'm telling every struggling veteran, it's okay to be wounded. It's okay to need help. The only thing that's not okay is giving up. Maya's phone never stopped ringing. Veterans in crisis, reporters, invitations to speak. Yet she always made time for the broken souls who wandered into Murphy's. 6 months had passed since that fateful night, and Maya Thompson now stood behind the bar, transformed from the woman who once hid in silence. A sleeveless top revealed her Delta Force tattoo with pride, her movement steady as she poured drinks for regulars. Behind her hung the Wall of Honor, framed photos of local veterans. Murphy worked beside her, treating her like the daughter he never had. The bar had changed, and so had its patrons, no longer drunks running from reality, but families, veterans, and people searching for connection. One evening, the bell above the door jingled. A young woman stepped in, about 25, carrying herself with a soldier's bearing despite her civilian clothes. Her faraway eyes, the look of someone who had seen too much loss, made Maya recognize her instantly. The girl approached carefully, moving as if across a minefield, her hands visible in a gesture of peace. Excuse me, are you Sergeant Thompson? Her voice trembled, but her gaze pleaded. Maya set down the glass, meeting her eyes. Yes, but you can just call me Maya. Relief softened the young woman's face. I'm Jessica Chen, Army medic. I just got back from Syria 2 months ago. Her story spilled out in fragments, an ambush, fallen comrades, nightmares that kept her from sleeping. I saw your story online, Jessica whispered, eyes wet. My mom sent me the article. I sat in my car for an hour before I could walk in. Maya stepped out from behind the bar, guiding her to a quiet corner. 6 months ago, I was hiding in my own shadow too, Maya said, pulling back her sleeve to reveal thin scars from shrapnel. I used to think they were proof I had failed, but they're proof I survived. Jessica touched her own scar, tears sliding down. I can't stop seeing the faces of the ones we lost. Maya held her hand, her voice steady. They never leave us, but we honor them by living, by helping others. Murphy appeared with 2 cups of coffee, setting them down as if he knew caffeine was more useful than alcohol in this moment. Here's what I've learned, Maya continued, nodding toward the groups of people talking around them. Strength isn't in hiding your wounds. It's in sharing them so others know they're not alone. This is a place where you don't have to pretend you're okay. Jessica nodded, her tense shoulders loosening. My family doesn't understand. They want me to go back to who I was. But that person died in the desert. Maya gave a sad smile. You can't go back, but you can move forward. And you won't have to do it alone. Murphy's Tavern kept evolving. From a small bar, it became a national movement. They held support groups, veteran job fairs, family counseling. The model spread to 12 cities, with Maya leading online sessions. Tommy Martinez often stopped by. His auto shop now employed 15 veterans, providing stability and peace. That night you saved me, he told Maya, not from Rex, but from the man I was becoming. Even some former Steel Wolves members found redemption, joining community work. The story that began with a bar and a tattoo had become a fire spreading across the nation. It proved that true strength wasn't in muscle or fear, but in standing tall, sharing scars, and helping others rise with you. And above all, it showed that even the darkest ghosts can become guiding lights for a community. If we're brave enough to stop hiding, the deepest changes often appeared in the smallest moments. A veteran finding sleep without nightmares. A broken family piecing itself back together. A survivor becoming a mentor. Detective Sarah Kim returned to Murphy's Tavern, not as a cop, but as a regular part of the growing family the place had built. Maya, I've got good news, Kim said, her smile uncontainable. The Department of Veterans Affairs just approved the grant. Murphy's model will go nationwide. The bar erupted in cheers. Murphy placed his weathered hand on Maya's shoulder, pride in his eyes. From one small act of courage, they had sparked a national movement. They want you as the national coordinator, Kim added. Jessica, sitting nearby, looked at Maya with awe. Maya shook her head. D. Not me, all of us. Anyone who dares to stand instead of hide, to share instead of suffer in silence, they're part of this story too. Before the cheers died down, Maya's phone buzzed again. The caller ID flashed Washington, D.C., she answered, hearing the voice of Senator Patricia Williams. We'd like you to testify before the Senate Armed Services Committee on improving mental health care for veterans. Maya's hand trembled, an old habit, but her voice was firm. I'll be there. Here's to Maya Thompson, the one who taught us that real strength isn't running from your ghosts, but facing them. Glasses lifted high, catching the light like flames of unity. But in Maya's mind, the path ahead was clear. Thousands of veterans still hiding, still fighting in silence. Her war wasn't over. It had just shifted to a new battlefield. 6 weeks later, Maya stood before Congress, the Delta Force tattoo faintly visible under her formal blazer. Every day, 22 American veterans take their own lives, she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. Not because they're weak, but because they're fighting alone. And we can change that. Behind her sat Murphy, Jessica, Tommy, and others, transformed by Murphy's Tavern. The room fell silent as Maya laid out the national model, safe community spaces where veterans and families could meet, share, and heal. We don't need more statistics. We need connection, understanding, and the courage to show our scars. The proposal passed unanimously. On the flight home, Maya thought of the journey from the night Rex tore her shirt to the day she stood before Congress. The woman who once hid behind long sleeves, was gone. In her place stood a warrior who understood that vulnerability was not weakness, but the ultimate strength. Murphy's still needed her on Thursday nights, and to Maya, that mattered as much as any political speech. Change always began with one person, one story, one brave moment passed to the next. Jessica now co-led the support group, giving back the strength she had received. Each week, new faces arrived, bringing invisible wounds and a desperate hope for healing. And they found it in the unlikeliest of places, a suburban bar where one tattoo had once silenced an entire room. The final image was simple yet powerful. Maya behind the bar, tattoo glinting under warm light, surrounded by people she had helped, who now helped others in turn. Above the doorway hung a new sign, Murphy's Tavern. Veterans, welcome, safe space. No one fights alone, because sometimes the strongest revolutions don't start with armies or governments, but with one person deciding to stop hiding their truth. Maya's phone rang again. Another veteran in crisis. Another chance to turn pain into purpose. She answered, her voice calm and warm. This is Maya. You're not alone. We'll talk it through together. And the circle continued. Every act of courage sending ripples outward, touching lives, passing strength from one generation to the next. Maya Thompson had discovered the ultimate truth. Real power isn't measured by the battles you win, but by the warriors you help find their way back. Maya Thompson's story reminds us that true strength isn't about muscle or intimidation, but about the courage to face our ghosts and turn pain into purpose for others. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below, because sometimes your words might be the encouragement someone else truly needs. Maya Thompson's story reminds us that true strength isn't about muscle or intimidation, but about the courage to face our ghosts and turn pain into purpose for others. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below, because sometimes your words might be the encouragement someone else truly needs.